Joining us right now is Joe Covello. He is a former New York appellate judge and partner at Lynn, Gartner, Dunn, and Covello. Judge Covello, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
What do you make of this showdown? I mean, what would Gorsuch's appointment mean for the bench?
It would restore the balance of power that was there before. He's replacing Justice Scalia. The liberals would have you believe that it's really tipping the scales in a different direction, but all they're doing is reestablishing what the balance was before Justice Scalia's passing. Justice Kennedy is really the swing vote. He's
right.
the individual that decides more often
But if they change the rules are changed forever, right?
Yeah.
Well, Judge, you know, this nuclear option, it's such a harsh term.
It's
The Senate precedent. The Senate precedent.
It's such a harsh term to use. How will that really work? I mean, they're going to have discussion, then they'll caucus, then they pull the trigger. I mean, how does that work?
Well, remember, it's been utilized by the Democrats in the past for the federal district court judges as well as the Court of Appeals judges. So they were the ones who first instituted this nuclear option.
Yes.
So all they're going to do is take a vote, stop the filibuster. And I don't believe a filibuster has ever been used before on a judicial candidate. So this is the first time we're seeing this as a weapon. So they're going to utilize what the Democrats have put in place, that being the nuclear option, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
Do you think that, when I look at what the American people are viewing this as, it's just looking like there is no hope for Republicans and Democrats to ever work together when you see something that's like, you're going to do this, I'm going to do it worse.
Right.
Do you think that this signals that there's a bigger problem, and do you think that changing this rule forever is a big deal? Is it going to be a problem moving forward?
No. No, I don't believe it's a big deal. I don't think it's going to be a problem moving forward. The electorate has spoken. They wanted President Trump to appoint the next Supreme Court judge, and he's doing that. And they're there to advise and consent, and there is nothing that this individual, Judge Gorsuch, has done that they could point to. He's eminently qualified. He's superbly qualified. When Justice Scalia had passed, I said, who could you possibly get to replace such an icon? And we found one.
You know what is appalling is the desperation of these liberals trying to keep Gorsuch off of the high court, that they've introduced phony baloney plagiarism allegations just in the last few days, involving him citing in the work about euthanasia that he wrote what is essentially the definition of a medical term. You actually had publications writing about esophageal atresia with tracheoesophageal fistula. That is what they're hanging their hat on. I just find that their desperation is over the top.
You find it, but I think people feel. Don't you think people find that as well?
Exactly.
Yes. Well, it has been one after the other. He's anti-women, and then he says nothing's going to change. They say that he's anti-gay marriage, he's anti that community, and then that doesn't work. And then they've tried one argument after other, and none of them have worked. And now they're at this.
Yeah, it's almost unfathomable.
The truth is, I'm sorry, they don't mind who is put up. They're going to oppose it.
Because it's Donald Trump's pick.
Yes.
Well, and also there's spite about what happened under the Obama administration.
That's right. That's
well,
right.
I think the big point you made was this is really just bringing it into balance. It's the next one that President Trump will get to a point that should be the issue.
That may very well be if it's a liberal.
Yes.
Let me ask you, Judge, I want to switch gears here and ask you about whether this is an invasion of privacy or really just a safety precaution. The news this morning, New York State's highest court ruling this week that the police can seize someone's Facebook activity. This ruling was in response to the company's challenge of search warrants issued to uncover suspected Social Security fraud. Microsoft, Google, Twitter all supporting Facebook's appeal on this. But what does this ruling mean, really, for Internet privacy if the police can come and just say, I'm seizing this Facebook data from you?
Well, these were warrants that were issued by a judge after an affidavit was presented establishing probable cause. The individual who has the right to challenge it is the criminal themselves, not the entity that's holding the evidence. And that's all Facebook is. If I'm silly enough to go out and run a marathon at the same time that I'm claiming I'm totally disabled under Social Security, they have a right to seize that, and that's exactly what DA Vance has done. What's offensive about it is that he filed 382 subpoenas. It almost looks like a fishing expedition, honestly. And about 100 people were arrested. I think 60 convictions occurred. But what the Court of Appeals said, and correctly said, is you don't have standing, Facebook, to challenge these individuals' rights, the Fourth Amendment rights, the rights against search and seizure, because that endures to the defendant himself, not to Facebook. Facebook is simply holding it. So I believe the trial judge in that case wrote that if a landlord tried to quash a subpoena that's being served upon a tenant in his or her building, that would be improper. They don't have standing to do that. Only the defendant does in New York.
These were, in some instances, individuals who were on disability who had photos on Facebook of them deep-sea fishing, like catching giant fish, riding wave runners, who were collecting literally tens of thousands of dollars every year in disability payments. And DA Vance busted it and caught them.
Wow. And we know that when the DA Vance joined us here, he was not happy with the technology companies. Remember when he wanted access to the phones to uncover murders, and they weren't getting any cooperation from the tech companies.
Basically,
so there's a history here.
Right, giving cover to and protecting child molesters and drug dealers.
In the old days,
is what these technology companies have been doing, quite frankly.
In the old days, we'd hire a private detective to see the person that was on disability out bowling. Now we just go to Facebook.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
And the Court of Appeals did not address the merits of the case. They simply said you don't have standing, and that's it. And they even suggested subtly that maybe there is a way that you can do it. And I believe Judge Rivera, in a concurring opinion, said the same thing. But I believe the decision is 100% correct.
All right, we'll be watching that one. Judge, good to see you.
Thanks
so much for your insights. Very much appreciated. Judge Joe Covello there.